All right, welcome back to Another Dimension. I'm Quinn.
I'm Trask.
I'm Taylor.
Good afternoon, Taylor.
Hello.
How are you?
Wonderful.
How are you?
I'm exhausted, but
Long week?
yeah. You got me we're implementing this new software, and that
It's mind-numbing.
it's a lot of data entry, and it's mind-numbing. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
sucks the life out of you.
Yeah. I would much rather do anything else.
And the with manual labor too, I can work outside and do that, but the minute I sit down, I'm done. It's impossible to get back into it. So with the constant interruptions and everything, just hopping in and out, it's got to be difficult.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
So,
in the news this week, I-40 is shut down again in Tennessee. They just got it reopened back up partially from Hurricane Helene, in between Tennessee, North Carolina border on 40. There's been flooding.
And for those of you who don't know, I-40 is a huge
major
thoroughfare.
Yep,
yeah.
major, especially on the eastern seaboard there. But they had major flooding and rock slides on Friday, I believe it was, last week. And they're predicting more rain and more issues coming up. And
is this a new thing? Since
rain
the
and rock slides?
Has this happened for years, or did the hurricane start it and now they just haven't gotten it shored up yet?
I don't know why it's happening, but the article did say that it was all coming down from the mountainsides. So I don't know if it's maybe it changed water drainage or however that happened, or maybe the infrastructure isn't fixed yet.
I don't remember hearing about it being that big of an issue in the past.
Right. But there's obviously something going.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if those levees are fixed yet that caused the whole thing. So maybe that's not able to control it. So, but
it looked horrible.
It's bad. I mean, there's standing water, and
Mahoney lives down in that area.
Yeah.
And he was posting some pictures.
Yeah.
And, Mahoney, if you got any more pictures, send them.
Or
send
moonshine.
Them our way. Or moonshine.
Send some moonshine from the great state of Tennessee.
I don't think you can do that.
Well, don't send some moonshine then.
Yeah.
Or when you're up here, make sure to stop by. It's been a while. But they're saying the reroute on that is I-80, 81 north to 26 east, back to 81 to 77. And 77 cuts in on
That's West Virginia, isn't it?
Right.
Okay.
So I didn't look at that on a map, but 77 runs from the south side of, I know that runs up through Beckley and all that kind of stuff there, and it comes into Virginia, but I don't know if that on the bottom side there where North Carolina kind of hits that, if you can get back up. And I know we had to do some oversized routing that way at one point, but so that's the route, 81 to 26 east to 81 north back to 77 south, and that'll get you around that if you're in that area, or backwards if you're coming from North Carolina. See what I did there?
Creating content.
Right. And then we had covered on this a while ago. It originated in Colorado, but it was busted down the border patrol down in Texas.
Yep.
Caught some people with fake CDLs or fake issued license.
If you remember, they asked the officer asked the people how the beaches were in Guadalajara or something.
Yeah, and it's in a mountain range.
There's no beaches there.
They uncovered another one in Florida. They think it's been going on for 3 years. They think thousands of CDLs have been issued illegally. And the red flag, take a guess what the red flag was that caused it. One of the people, they arrested 2 people. One of the people that was arrested did not 100, not 200, but 295 road tests in 1 month.
Really? 10 a day? Every day?
Every day, including Saturday and Sunday. Mm-hmm. I've never been in the DMV that quick. There's absolutely 0% chance. They said on average, all their other people do between 20 and 25.
A month.
A month.
Yeah. Unreal.
So, yeah. When they arrested these people, they seized everything from their houses. They found $120,000 in cash. It's linked to other companies out of different countries. There was other companies involved that were bribing these guys to
fill their trucks.
And
yeah, I'm sure it's way larger scale than just these two guys doing the road or alleged road tests.
But that brings up an interesting point. Like, if all of a sudden, this hasn't happened to us, but if all of a sudden you found out that someone had a fake CDL, what do you do? I mean, if
pull
you
them off the road,
obviously,
instantly, yeah.
right? But like, if you don't know about it, it's one thing. But if you do know about it, like, what is your plan of attack? Like, oh shit, I better get ahead of everything, and odds are there's more.
The companies that, I mean, there's checks and balances in place to verify the CDLs, and there's the clearinghouses and the, I mean, around here we have something called PARS, and there's PSP, and there's safeguards in place. I wouldn't say they're 100% foolproof, but
Clearly not.
well, but that's for us,
Right?
Because we want to do it right. Those companies don't care,
Right, and they're not probably doing those things right. Hey,
No.
they're not putting people through the proper paperwork, the training,
No,
all that.
they're handing them the keys.
Here you go, and
Yes.
hop in.
and get to work. And you better get there.
How do you, like, man? I know that like we stress out about random things,
Nuclear verdicts and
all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
But they're just like gonna hop on a plane and be in a different country by the time that's reached, or like the owners of that. I
it
don't
would
know.
scare me to death.
Right.
But yeah, they don't care about anybody but themselves. The people, the owners who are doing that, I
Right.
should say, the people running it.
Right.
They don't care about that driver that they just issued that CDL. If that driver gets in a major accident and he goes to prison, so what? Right?
Right.
They don't
And do
care.
you think those drivers now, hopefully, like with all of these new CDL things coming down the pipeline, this all starts to get rectified. But do you think all those drivers know that they're fake CDLs?
I was
Or
going to
is
say
it
that.
like
I
a-
bet you there's a large percentage that know, but there's some who just probably thought it was normal.
They're
Like,
here for a better
hey,
life.
Yeah, like, yep, you come to work for me. I'm going to send you to Trask. He's
Yep.
going to get you your CDL. Okay,
It
what does
probably
that
looks
look like?
legit.
I have no idea what that time frame looks like. Oh, here's what he did. He signed off on it.
Right.
You may not even had to go sign off on it.
Right. It was probably pre-done and waiting for them when they got there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, we've been kind of brought up in this industry. Somebody who has no clue about this may not have any idea. Hey, I just went to Jim Bob Trucking,
Yep.
and they said, "Yep, all you got to do is
Fill out this paperwork and
or nothing." They
Right.
told me, here's the keys. We're going to get you a license when it comes in, or we create
Right.
it. Put this in your wallet. It could happen.
yeah, I could see that happening, but it's just sad.
We can't shift a truck. Here's an automatic, right? Like,
You can't read street signs. Use Google Translate. I mean, like, what?
sadly, I'm sure it happens.
100%. Speaking of Florida,
How do you sleep at night doing that kind of thing?
that's what I'm saying. Like, how do you? They just don't care. Like, hey, they're isolated, they're protected, I don't know, or it's just maybe they don't know.
Is that a kind of not a warning, but a thing for a customer too, a shipper? Hey, make sure you do your due diligence and you're not putting freight on somebody who just walked in the door. You don't know if they're going to get it there safely. You don't know if they're in a cargo theft ring like we talked about last week.
Right.
That's scary. I mean, we were at a foundry the other day making a delivery, and it was steady. It was van carriers coming in there, and it was nonstop. And I'm willing to bet you, of the 30 trucks that rolled through there, I knew one of them, and this was a local place. And I just thought, like, man, they're
Just material coming in from all over.
they're shipping outbound, but who are these people and where are they coming from?
But it's not. I mean, if that company is contracted with XYZ brokerage, goes back to the brokerage thing too. Hey, it's not. They don't have to worry about that. But if their stuff is getting delivered on time, like, what do you?
And this place made like brakes. I don't think many people are going to steal brakes.
Right.
But if it was something more lucrative than that, I'm sure maybe there's other safeguards in place. Maybe they do their checking and due diligence. But
Right.
if you're not,
You're putting a lot of faith into someone doing their job.
Hey guys, Trask with Quick Transport here. We're different
If you're looking for something different in the trucking industry, give us a call and see how we can help. 920-764-4665. I'm looking forward to hearing from you, and we hope to have you in one of our seats here shortly. Thanks. Back to the Florida comment. Speaking of Florida.
Yeah, speaking of Florida.
Do you know where the Cigar City is?
Tampa.
Do you know why it's called the Cigar City?
No, but I think there's Cigar City Brewing, because when I was down there, I may have gone there.
Tell that story sometime about your other experience down in Tampa, but we don't have to get there right now.
Scumbags.
Right.
Scumbag.
Prior to scumbags being exposed.
Mm-hmm.
Scumbags.
Mm-hmm.
You almost got offed by some weird mob from a different country.
Maybe.
But Cigar City. Reason it's called Cigar City is up until the 1960s when like health and everything changed and smoking became less cool per se. Tampa was the largest cigar producer in the world. They figured hundreds of millions of cigars were produced, and Tampa alone had 200 cigar manufacturers.
Holy cow.
So I thought that was interesting.
My second guess was going to be Miami, but I was pretty sure it was Tampa.
I didn't think it was for actual cigars. I thought it was for cigar boats.
Oh.
That was my initial
Cigarette
thing.
boats.
Well, I call them cigar boats.
Yeah.
'cause
That's where all the Hondurans and Cubans come in.
Yeah, they said
Florida.
a lot of that happened because of immigration back in the day, and it was brought there. But interesting. Something not so. It is interesting, but not so fun or lighthearted. Is obviously there's stuff going on out in the Middle East between Iran and Israel, but
And us
as the United States, and as a trucking industry as a whole, I think it's going to play a big effect because of the Strait of Hormuz. It is a crucial thoroughfare for all of the OPEC nation and the Eastern, like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, all those countries, I almost said companies, that produce oil to get out. So it connects the Gulf of Persian Gulf to the Gulf of Oman.
Okay.
Which is, if you look on a map, runs it through like the side of every one of those countries that produces oil. And Iran is right there, and they've put threats on.
They're going to control it.
They're going to block it.
Yep.
Experts are saying that, and I don't know the current barrel price of oil, but experts are saying that if that happens, which I don't know if it's going to get there, if it's a scare tactic or what, but I don't think anyone knows. I mean, they signed a ceasefire and it was violated
the next day,
15 minutes later. But if that happens, experts are saying that we could see barrel prices of fuel go up to $130 a barrel.
crude oil.
Crude oil.
Yep.
But that strait alone handles 20 million barrels of fuel a day.
20 million barrels of oil.
And I think a barrel, if I remember, I don't know this exactly, I think it's 44 gallons in a barrel.
20 million.
Yep.
And it's at, let's just say $100 a gallon, or $100 a barrel.
Yep.
What's that?
$4 a gallon.
No. 20 million times 100.
2 billion, I think.
I think so.
Something like that.
Add 2 zeros to 20 million. Yeah.
200.
$2 billion dollars at $100, and that's a day.
Yeah, 20 million barrels of fuel a day, which is 20% of the oil produced in the whole world.
Wow.
Just through that strait alone, and it's 21 miles.
So you shut that 20% down.
Most of that fuel goes to Eastern countries, Asia, China, Japan, all of that, where their industry right now relies very, very heavily on that fuel.
Right.
But there are other, like Saudi Arabia's got an east-west pipeline, and they just don't have, it's at max capacity. So there's no other ways to get fuel to that side of the world if that happens. So it's being watched. It's going to be something in the news. But one thing that I thought related pretty, I guess, urgently
heavily
to the trucking industry was how does the trucking industry adapt to almost double the price of fuel? Now, I'm not saying, hey, that's going to translate exactly, because I don't know how that's all going to work out, and I don't think anyone does. But if that were, I mean, the short answer is, we got to charge more for fuel. I mean, we were in that during the COVID days and things like that.
We've kind of talked about the master plan
Right.
that the current administration we think has. I mean, I'm not saying and maybe the plan was to go to war, prepare to have that shut off. But he's been talking about drill, baby, drill. I don't know where that's at. I haven't seen anything in the news. But is that is our reliance on other countries coming to an end? Are we, we're talking about the U.S. Steel, we're talking about drilling, and we're talking about all this stuff being kept domestic here in the U.S.
Right. Which we'll get into more, but.
Okay. I think it all makes sense to me.
Right.
Now, you have to be a team. I think you have to be a team player to some extent, right? We still have to export stuff. There's a lot of people in this country that rely on exports.
Right.
We do rely on imports as well. But, man, if you could keep the U.S. Self-sufficient, independent, whatever you want to call it.
90%.
I think that's pretty enticing.
Well, and I think, if you look at it like a household or a company, like if you can keep your stuff in-house, it's usually easier to control. You can have a better product delivered. You have more, hands on it, whatever. It may cost a little bit more, but what's that worth to you, right? But I don't understand, if that oil is going east, right? The majority of it. They said, I think 57% of that oil was going east that was coming out of that area. So for simple math, let's call it 10 million barrels a day.
Okay.
How does that get replaced? Like, are we going to supplement that? Are we going to start selling that back master plan wise? Does that make sense? Does that
do we have it?
Well, I know
but
that we were the biggest oil producer, I think, in 2023. I don't know if the numbers for 2024 came out, but the United States was the biggest oil producer at one point recently. So do we have some extra? Yeah, I would say we probably do, but I don't know that. I don't think anyone knows that.
They'll probably regulate that to sell it to our allies, right?
Right. So just interesting. Obviously, there's going to be more coming every minute, I think, on this whole thing, but it's something to watch out for is if that does get pinched off or choked off like they're saying it's going to, it could mean higher fuel prices, which mean higher shipping rates, higher, this, that, or shortages.
And in our industry right now, freight rates are down. I mean, it's
but we don't have enough drivers.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of trucks, not a whole lot of freight.
Right.
Now you start compounding that with higher fuel costs. We talked about higher insurance costs. Everything's going up. Something's going to have to give.
Yeah, and what is that? I mean, the beauty of business is, hey, the strong survive, right? And I'm not wishing ill will on anyone, but if you're highly leveraged or not in a good financial situation, you very, very quickly lose your ability to make an adjustment because the funds just aren't there.
Yeah, and we talked about it as a whole. It's going to be a short-term pain for long-term gain. I still believe that. And you're right. It does weed out some of the people that shouldn't be doing what they're doing. But
they always pop back
God
up.
forbid that could be any of us. It really could.
Right.
Anybody, in business, in your household, whatever, you're one bad move away from
a bad situation.
Disaster. Yeah. Right. But you either have to overcome, you have to figure it out, and thankfully we've always been able to do that.
Right.
So, but I think we're still in a little short-term pain here. We've had a lot of projects push off.
Right.
We've had a lot of projects get discontinued. And when I say push off, it's June right now. Some are getting pushed to late July, late August, right?
Yeah, and you kind of get a mix of, is it tariff related, if it's funding related, if it's this or that.
It hasn't really. Tariffs haven't been that hot of a topic.
No, but they were, and everyone pinched off and held back. And now all of a sudden people are realizing that, hey, that probably wasn't a good idea.
Yeah.
Because, oh crap, now we're behind the 8 ball on this or we're behind the 8 ball on that. And production, you can't just stop a ball rolling down the hill without it having to eventually start again.
Yeah. On the tariff topic, most people that I've talked to have said, yes, maybe we've seen an increase, maybe 8% or whatever, but the what was Trump saying? 50%, 125% in some
Right.
instances. That hasn't been an issue. And the ones who were saying they did get a tariff or an increase because of the tariffs, don't believe it was actually due to the tariffs.
No,
They
it was
believe
in
it was
protection.
It was like a easy out.
Right.
Oh, tariffs are here. We're going to bump up the prices a little
Right.
bit.
It's like insurance rates. Oh, here's your annual increase. It's
Yep.
just an easy way for
Yes.
people to sell and get more money.
Yeah. I'm sure in other industries that they were affected differently, but that's
Right.
just at least what I've seen.
Right.
Truck salesman was in a couple weeks ago, and what I think he said they were going on like an 8% tariff or 8% increase, not due to tariffs. Let's just say. But the other side of that is they can't sell a truck right now.
Right.
There's not many people buying new trucks. Interest rates are high. I said, well,
What's the lead time?
freight rates are down. Lead time during COVID, it was like a year,
Year and a half.
and you could get one like next week. Or
He said tomorrow.
Yeah.
Where's his exact
Yeah.
words? But
so
maybe incentives are coming. Hopefully.
Well, remember I said to him, well, does that mean prices are down? Well,
Yeah.
no,
Not yet.
not
Yeah.
yet.
So that's just another example. That's a different industry that's related, obviously, to trucking that experience it in a different way, right? So, you ever heard of the Howard Street
Hold
Tunnel?
on a second. We should
Okay.
do it. We should do a little safety topic, right?
Sure.
Safety. We've been pushing a lot of things, but one thing that kind of hit home for me the other night on my way home. I used to ride a motorcycle. I don't anymore. I got in an accident. I got rear-ended. But beware of motorcycles. The other day, I was sitting on a frontage road, and a sport bike was coming under the overpass. It was like coming under the highway, right? And he was kind of off, kind of on the white line, closer to the shoulder, but flying. And I didn't see him. He kind of blended in, and I crossed, and I had enough time, but I just thought, man, if it would have been any longer,
Yeah.
I would have probably taken him out.
Right.
And then once we got up the front edge road a little bit, he flew by me at about 100 miles an hour. But he was being an idiot on the bike, that's my opinion. But you still got to be aware of motorcycles and pedestrians and bicycles. And like sometimes it's hard to see. There's sun in your eyes. There's all some people see people walking down the road and they just blend in. They, like wear something bright.
Or do something crazy when you're walking.
Sure. Yeah.
But no, you're absolutely right. I mean, we've all had those.
Be aware.
I kind of had not along the lines of motorcycles, but pedestrians. I was dropping the boys off at my mom's house, we were dropping them off, and we were in Becca's minivan, and the door opened, and the two older boys know how to get in and out of their car seats by themselves. Cooper opened up the door and hopped out. He doesn't know any better, but a truck was coming down the road, and I froze. Like, I didn't know what to do. Thankfully, nothing happened, but like it can happen like that. It's nuts. So
be aware.
anyway, be
of
aware,
everything.
be vigilant. Look left, right, left. They always say that. Or if you're in Europe, it's
And then
probably
right,
left, right,
and then do it again.
Yeah, and don't. If you think you're gonna have to gun it to get out, just wait. Don't be in a hurry to die today, or make someone else die today.
That's right. And if you're on the flip side of that, if you're on the motorcycle, if you're on your bicycle, if you're walking, you're supposed to walk in the opposite direction of traffic. Biking, you're supposed to be in traffic, or same, right?
With traffic.
With traffic. Obviously, motorcycle abides by the normal laws, but don't be stupid. Like, make yourself visible and obey the law too. Like, don't run stop signs.
There's
Trask.
stop signs.
I don't know.
I don't think I've ran a stop sign.
On your bike?
Oh yeah, I have.
Right?
On my pedal bike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On your
all
road
the time.
bike?
Yeah.
Yeah. See?
So I'm so happy you just said that. On my way here, a kid, probably 12, fishing stuff. He went out across Kimberly. It was a crosswalk, but he was flying, didn't look right, didn't look left, Thank God the car in front of me saw him and slowed down. If somebody would have been on their phone, I would have been picking up a 12-year-old kid dead off the ground.
Yeah.
He didn't. I watched him. He didn't look left or right, and just never even touched his brakes. I was mind blown. I've never seen a kid do that.
And if you think about that, like I think back 15 years ago, 20-year-old or 16 years ago, 20-year-old Trask, 18-year-old Trask would have been like, if I had a motorcycle, I'm going to drive it as fast as I can, no matter what. No regard. I didn't have a family. I was still immature. Still probably am. But as you get older, you're just like, what the, like some of the stuff you think back of. I remember.
I will say this: at least that 12-year-old kid was out going fishing and riding his bike and not sitting in the house playing video games. So good for him.
That too. But if it had been a different vehicle, the video games would have saved him.
Yeah.
Like I was literally speechless. I wanted to yell something at him, but I was so like, how do you do?
Yeah.
He doesn't know the repercussions. Like, hey, I mean, at 12 years old, you don't understand what death is. You know, it's sad.
I was riding my bike to school at 7. At 12, no way I'm going across the road like that. And he's probably crossed it 10 million times.
Hey everyone, Quinn with Quick Transport here. We are looking for a few drivers. We have a few empty trucks right now. If flatbedding or driving for Quick Transport interests you, give us a call, 920-764-4665. Thanks for watching.
I don't know.
So,
It's just funny you say that.
Back to non-safety and doom and gloom. You ever heard of the Howard Street Tunnel?
Gotta be safe.
I agree.
I did not hear about that until today.
So the Howard Street Tunnel connects the Port of Baltimore underground under the city of Baltimore to the Eastern Seaboard via rail. It was built 129 years ago. They dug it all by hand back then, so that's like 1890.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and it has capacity. At some point, there's turns in it that you can only go like 30 miles an hour because they're so hairpin, and it was designed for stuff way
smaller than it is today.
Yeah. So it was designed, it's been operational, but inefficient in today's world for the company that owns the tunnel because they can only single stack containers coming out of the port. So last March, I think they started digging. They're digging it all down, and they're adding 18 inches to it, which will allow them to double stack containers out of the Port of Baltimore. They think it was $470 million to do it's a 2-mile stretch.
Wow.
They're working 24/7 around the clock. They think it'll be done in 6 more months. And what this will do is Baltimore will be able to run double stack containers from Maryland to Florida and then Baltimore to the Midwest. It'll be the shortest trip via rail from the East Coast to the Midwest. They're thinking that alone will allow the port to grow by 160,000 containers annually. They think it's going to add 13,000 jobs in the industry. And
that's awesome.
It is. The tunnel then will obviously allow it to be double stacked, but it also, Baltimore, I didn't think this was true, but Baltimore is an overnight drive, and by that I mean less than 500 miles away from 1/3 of the United States population.
Because it's highly concentrated on the East Coast.
100%.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, as you see it goes over there. But
is that the direction we're going?
Well, I mean, bring that full circle. Let's talk about imports. Everything's down.
That's what I'm saying.
So is it smart? Yeah, if they can be more efficient, and I mean, $457 million is a lot of money, right? But to a major company like that's probably makes sense to them.
Yeah.
But do the ports, it's the 21st century. Let's get into double stacking. If we can do that, we can cut down on train emissions. We can haul double the freight, whatever that may be. Great.
Yeah.
But is that need going to be there if we kind of move towards this new era American reindustrialization of 2025?
Well, we're really picking on China, right? Not picking on China, but I don't want to say singling out China either, but that's who we're focusing on, right? We kind of want to cut our dependence on China. That doesn't mean we're not going to depend on others.
No, and I don't think right now,
Or
at least
coexist
in
with others.
Right. In the short term, like we're going to have to. So with
what is Baltimore service? Eastern Europe or Western Europe?
yeah, I don't know where.
China must come into.
I would
West
guess
Coast.
probably Long Beach.
Yeah.
But I don't know where, it could be South America. South America I would think would be Houston, but you have Savannah, you have all of that.
Yeah. But no, I agree with you. Like, hey, it doesn't make sense. It did at the time.
Yeah, when they started it,
Yeah.
that was prior to all of these conversations going on. But let's talk about bringing stuff domestically home, to the United States.
Well, let's talk about other. We'll bring it right out there. We've got some projects right now that are on hold indefinitely, and one of the sites that we're supposed to deliver this product to, they've got $1 billion in building this new site, and
Spent already.
They've got $1 billion invested, and it was cheaper
With
or
a B.
less loss for them to stop construction, and
Put everything in.
because the demand for their product has fallen, and it's not going to. It may be there, and they may pick construction back up, but right now they don't know what they're going to do.
Right.
So it's cheaper to lose $1 billion than finish the plant, get it up and running, and sell some product and try to recover those costs.
Can you imagine having that problem? Yeah, I'm just going to throw away $1 billion.
Well,
With a B.
I can't think about the devastation to the town where it's at too. Like, all these people were probably super excited. You brought other industries in, I'm sure, other
Right.
businesses.
Guaranteed jobs,
People were
probably.
making
Truck stops.
decisions based on that. Hey, we're going to buy a new house. All this stuff.
Screeching halt.
Yeah.
They had, construction people that were going to plan on being down there for multiple years, and hey, we're going to relocate, and now all of a sudden it's done, it's over with.
Same thing happened up in North Dakota, right? On the
Right.
Bakken oil fields. I mean, they were rolling.
They were humming.
Wasn't I don't remember exact, but wasn't like a Big Mac at McDonald's like $20 or something? It was ridiculous.
It was expensive, yeah.
Inflation just was through the roof.
Well, yeah, there was no way to get it there. Any of the stuff, right?
Yeah, and they didn't have housing. They didn't have the infrastructure. So that was a boomer bust, just like the gold rush. If you look back at history, all this stuff has happened.
Yeah, just on different scales, right? Or different industries per se.
Yeah.
But bring it full circle. Let's bring this back to transportation. If we're importing, whether tariffs are included or not, but let's say we buy a product and we import it from China. How many legs of transportation are involved in that?
Well, depends what it is. But if you want to do like a raw material, it came off the field or out of whatever.
Let's say a finished product.
Well, let's just make it basic, right?
Right.
Like, hey, let's just say it came from the manufacturer in China to the port to, or let's say to the train terminal to a port to the boat to here most likely to a warehouse.
To a distribution center probably or whatever. And then one leg from there to the final.
Sure.
And
then it went to Amazon, and then it came to final, right?
Right.
Like there's a lot.
There is there, but the demand that creates for trucking is minuscule to if things were domestically produced. Holding everything else. Now, I get price plays a part of this, but let's say it's a raw manufacturer. Let's use a car, for example. If we import a car, it gets to the port in the United States and takes a trip to the dealership, and then
that's it.
It's off of.
Yeah.
It's now someone owns it or something. It's
Yeah.
done. If that same car was built here, the raw materials are brought to a production plant. Then they're brought to a finishing plant. They're all probably trucked. Then they're brought back to an assembly plant. If it's not all
or
done.
just not even trucking, transportation in general.
Right. Which creates
rail.
Yep. Which then now all of a sudden it's finished. Now it needs to be transported, whether that's truck or rail.
To assembly plants.
To assembly, and then final, inspection, all that, whatever, and then to the dealer. So the big push, if you look at this from a transportation industry, I mean, domestically produced items creates more of a trucking demand for United States as a whole, which I think makes 100% sense. Now, I don't think cost sense. It may make sense, but if we bring all of this stuff full circle, that's the way. I mean, Apple is investing $500 billion in the next 4 years in the United States for production plants. Jabil, which is the main supplier for Apple and technology products, they're all coming here to invest. Does that create a potential manufacturing boom in the United States that transportation, logistics, trucking, training, airplaning, whatever can handle?
I agree with you, first off. But think about this. You've got all this transportation happening at the ports on these imports right now, right?
Right.
Not so much internally on that same basis, right? Not
Correct.
so much domestically because we're not producing it domestically.
Right.
Say the imports shut off. Still got that capacity out here.
I would agree with that.
Where's it going to go? I think it would shift modes, shift regions potentially. I don't think there'd be a shortage, but I do think there would be a change in the way it looks, and I do think it would be fairly lucrative for those who are in it.
I would agree with that, but I think there would be a shortage because there's probably a 1-to-1 ratio of, I'm not saying truck to load ratio out of the port, but hey, each load coming in has to go out, right?
Yeah.
In theory,
Yeah.
where if things were produced here, each finished product requires 8 loads.
Potentially.
If you look at it that, I'm making those numbers up.
Yeah.
So there's more truckloads. That doesn't mean that there's not as much capacity, right? But and maybe you can become more efficient and those kind of things, or some of the plants don't require it. But I do think that these, holding politics and everything aside, domestically produced items are excellent for
Absolutely.
transportation, and I support it for that realm of things. But there are a lot of other issues or things that coincide with that. Pricing. We talked about, do we want to pay $12 for a book instead of $7? All of those little things. Do we want to wait a month instead of a week? I don't know where it's going or anything else, but
where there's a will, there's a way, right? If that's the way we want to go as a country, we will. I mean, I think our administration's pretty headstrong on that, right?
I would agree.
I don't think we can coexist without other countries, and I think it would be foolish to segregate from some of that stuff.
Right.
If we're doing that, maybe we should segregate some states, chop them off. Let
California?
Let them become independent. But we need. I like where we're going. Hey, we got to get back to
The roots
being on
of
top.
America.
Yeah, and
Right.
the roots of America. Hardworking, proud individuals, and I'm just excited for it. I think it's going to happen. How soon?
What's your guess on how soon?
I don't know how fast everything else. Okay, we talked about drill baby drill. We talked about U.S. Steel. Those were hot topics.
They're gone. I haven't heard boo about them.
Talk is cheap.
Right.
What's going on?
Right.
So I don't know.
Now this, I'm going to go on record and say that it is the 24th of June as we're recording this. By May of next year, we're in a complete different.
I was going to say spring of next year.
We're in a complete different situation as a country. I don't know what that is. That may be a freight boom. It may be interest rates falling, housing market. I think that's still going to come. That bubble can only keep blowing up until it pops.
And interest rates have dropped a little bit.
They have. A quarter point was the last time I saw it. But, I mean, there are a lot of things that have to happen in order to keep this train of America moving. politics and manufacturing, everything else aside, there are a lot.
And
of
again,
other
we're
things.
only sprinkled tidbits, right?
We don't know.
Influenced by what they want to tell
Right.
us. We don't know what
Right.
half of what's going on.
100%.
So,
If you're still here, thanks for listening to our ramble.
yeah.
Like, subscribe, share. Thanks to everyone that's watching. And
Are we missing anything? Anything else you guys want to get out?
I don't know. Yeah.
Before
You
we
got
end
anything
it?
else you want to vent about?
No.
Shoutouts. Okay.
You know what? Shout outs. We haven't talked to some people in a long time. Pete
Pete helped us.
Adam, Bushberger.
Pete helped me out. I had to make a sign. He cut me a board. It was really nice of him. Still thanks, Pete.
All right. I don't know what to say to that.
Me either. That was random.
But
But
Stashix.
yeah, I was just gonna say the Stashix. Who else? Nettie.
Nettie.
I don't
Yeah.
even know if he
You know
exists
what?
anymore.
Nettie, you were talking smack. I called you out, and I haven't heard from him.
No, crickets. His phone probably died. He's probably got Cellcom.
Let's go with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt.
So do we, and our phones are working. So
Yeah. Ponyboy? I don't know
Pony
where
Boy,
he's been.
he was down in southern Wisconsin last week. He messaged us on YouTube. It was checking in.
Gene,
Gene.
Corey, all these guys.
Work Harder 590
Yeah.
New
gave
subscriber.
us all those ideas.
Terrell,
Yeah.
Terrell. Yeah. I got to send him a hat. So
Israel, Julian, everybody. Thanks for listening.
yeah. Thank
That's
you.
what all we got.
Yeah.
See you guys.
Have a great one.